On the line, I have Rick Thorpe from Xtreme Zero Waste. Good morning, Rick.
Hi, morning, Aaron. Kia ora, whaingaroa.
Did you like that song that you listened to there?
Beautiful.
Beautiful, thank you. Very good answer. Now, Xtreme Waste is at a point of, I don't know, kind of not change or anything, but it's an important stage in Xtreme Waste history because the old 7-year contract ends on 31st of June. Is there a 31st of June?
Yep, correct.
It is the 31st. Okay, so what's going to happen at that point for Xtreme Waste?
We, totally not confirmed yet. There's a councillor meeting on Tuesday, and where they're going to confirm a 1-year extension of the contract. And I guess, kind of in fairness to council, it's been a difficult time for them. There's a number of things kind of going along in parallel, and probably the most important of which is a service review of the district-wide waste collections. And so with that going on, they're not entirely sure what the councillors and staff would like to do in terms of, heading towards their goal of zero waste. So they're waiting for the results of that review and then for consultation with councillors and the community boards, and then they'll be able to renegotiate contracts with Metro Waste and Xtreme.
So the council at the moment has got the situation where it's got Xtreme Zero Waste out here, and Metro Waste doing probably the rest of the old Waikato district, and then there must be another waste operator up in the new northern part of our district, is there?
Yeah, there is. Enviro Waste runs a few services in the far north. Okay,
and it's kind of an inherited setup. And has there been a waste policy as such for the council up till this point, or is it just get rid of it?
No, there is. There's a waste minimisation plan, which is a document that every council must have and must regularly update, and that has a vision, and the vision for Waikato District is zero waste to landfill. It doesn't particularly have a target date for that zero, but so they've been working on the systems to help them achieve that vision. I guess the issue for them is that what's happening out in Raglan with Xtreme Waste is different to what's happening with the Metro Waste setup, and then that's different to the Enviro Waste setup to the far north, which is pretty much user pays and involves wheelie bins and prepaid bags. So,
okay. So that's three completely different systems then.
Yeah, and and fair enough. Ratepayers have often said, what do we pay for in the rates? It's different in each place, and there's different systems. Why not make it more uniform? Say, for example, let's have prepaid bags through the whole district, and that would make it a lot easier. Because Metro Waste suffers a lot. They get a lot of illegally dropped bags, and so there's always that, how do you apportion the blame to people? Do you continue to search for evidence? How do you get people to comply? And also people who want to put out more than 2 bags a week. And so if you just have a prepaid bag system through the whole district, and then bags are paid for, so you just, pick up whatever, and there's no compliance issues.
Yeah, there's no running around trying to figure out who's cheating the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that also rewards people if they do recycle, then, they obviously don't need to purchase so many bags.
So this focus on factors other than just the bottom line, that's something that, because of local body legislation, council's supposed to be looking at anyway, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah. It's core business. In fact, there's a sort of a major waste hui every year run by Wastemans, and then they have a 6-monthly one called a roundup, and that roundup is predominantly council staff, not so much the trade people, and it's in April this year, and the focus of it is council community partnerships. So they perhaps another example is that if you across the district here, like Metro Waste is achieving a 26% diversion by weight from diversion of waste from landfill.
Okay. Yep.
Extreme Waste is achieving about a 58% diversion by weight.
By weight. So people should understand when they hear about the 75% diversion factor that's by volume.
Correct.
Quite a different way of measuring things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so engineers, transport people generally use the weight because that's kind of a trigger for them in terms of what they can, the capacity of their trucks, what they can carry.
Right.
But we always measure things by volume because that's what fills the landfill. Doesn't matter how heavy it is; it's the area it takes up.
You also don't have the capacity to measure weight up there anyway, like when a vehicle comes through or a truck comes through.
Yeah, no, we have no weighbridge, so yeah, volume is what we measure.
So,
yeah, so you know, if you are happy with a 26% diversion figure, then you know that's the system you use. If you want to achieve a greater than 26%, then you have to bind the community into the equation, and the partnership programs, the community council partnerships, is the way across the country has shown to work very well.
That 26%, that's a figure I didn't get into my film. That's a new one on me, but it's essentially a bit under half of what happens out here.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's for roughly speaking the same amount of money from the council.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something I looked at. It didn't show up much in the film, but something I did look at when I was doing the research was that the difference in cost between a community operator and a commercial operator isn't that great. Sometimes there's a suggestion that the commercial operator has massive efficiencies and can make lots of savings, but they do have to give at least 15% profit to their shareholders, as we know. And so the costs aren't that different. Whereas here we're getting obviously half the diversion rate from the commercial operator. Yeah,
and I think councils in general, you know, are wanting to achieve a greater diversion. You know, at the moment there are two taxes on taking waste to landfill. One is a waste levy, which is set at $10 a tonne, and that's very low. In many countries around the world, that could be up to $50 a tonne. And a realistic figure for New Zealand would be about $20-25 a tonne. But there's a kind of a reluctance, especially by this government, to increase that charge because they supporting the growth and development of business and minimising kind of the impacts that those companies are making.
Regulatory hurdles, red tape, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
they call it,
making it easy for them, and what's kind of frustrating about that, especially for councils, is that waste is not a taxpayer issue; it's a ratepayer issue. So, our government's being benevolent and allowing industry to continue to drop waste is really having a greater effect on the ratepayer than the taxpayer.
Right.
But anyway, so the other levy that we pay at the landfill is a carbon tax, and this is relatively new. It's only been in for about 18 months.
Okay. And
it's set at $4 a tonne at the moment. But the only reason it's at $4 a tonne is because there's been a kind of a crash in the carbon market, and it dropped from about $20 down to $2 a tonne.
Mm.
But that's only a very that it won't stay there, and it'll climb back to $20 a tonne and probably escalate to up to $40 a tonne in the near future.
So how many tonnes of waste does Xtreme Waste send out?
There's about 1,100 tonnes a year.
Okay, so that will have, that kind of variation is not very helpful, is it, when you're trying to run a business operation?
No, and it's up to the landfill operator to set the fee for carbon.
Okay.
So at the moment, the $4 a tonne is kind of paying for the administration of the system for them to report back to the Ministry of Environment. But as soon as the carbon tax, the cost of carbon increases, and New Zealand is locked into ensuring that there's a cap on their carbon or a reduction of carbon, then they're going to actually have to pay this levy at the landfill.
Okay.
And so for Raglan, for example, because we remove the green waste, the wood, the paper, the cardboard, and if we were to establish a food waste collection and remove the kind of compostable organics, which is about another 8 to 14% of the waste stream, then we could actually apply to the landfill operator for exemption on paying the carbon tax.
Okay.
And the reason it was set up was for as a behaviour change. It wasn't set up as an income generator. So the ministry is very keen for councils to actually deal to the organics in the waste stream and to apply for this, exemption.
So it's the organics in the waste stream that causing a lot of the problems in the landfills.
Yeah, all the problems.
All the problem. Okay.
Beyond the toxic issues, but it's the methane production from the landfills that is a big issue.
Yeah. Okay, so we've just talked about how the community way versus the kind of the corporate way of doing things, and council starting to take notice of the different results that come out through that. Now, you've been working with Auckland Council on this exact issue, so they're probably a bit further ahead, we'd say, than our local council. So what's been happening up there, and are they putting together like tender documents that now ask for more information than just the price?
Yeah, they've very serious about their waste diversion, and because of the levies, they have to pay big money for the volumes that they produce, and so diversion is a way of reducing those costs. So they are looking at the best ways of achieving that, and as I mentioned before, a sort of a generalisation through New Zealand, the community council partnerships are the ones that are achieving almost a 50% better result in the diversion. So Auckland's council has come up with a new procurement policy for tendering and for contracting, where they're actually recognising the sort of triple bottom line. So in the procurement, they're saying the cost of it is only going to represent, say, 30 to 40% of how we're going to weight this.
Okay.
What we're interested in is seeing what the social and economic benefits are for through this contract.
Okay, so they're actually, all councils are duty bound to do this, aren't they? Are they? Is that under the local body act?
It kind of is. It was modified by the national government, but it still is there in there, and local government NZ, LGNZ.
Okay, and so in terms of concrete, real things that are happening on the ground, what is happening in Auckland at the moment?
Yeah, so they've put out the first under this new procurement policy. They've put out the first tender for a contract to manage a recycle centre at Waiuku, and there's a community group which Xtreme Waste has been working with. So we've been given support by Auckland Council to assist some of those community groups prepare themselves for tendering and contracting. The one at Waiuku is a relatively new group, but very passionate and want to tender for it. But they probably don't quite have the skill base or experience to be able to complete that tender or bid for the contract. So Xtreme Waste is looking like it's going to be going into a joint venture with the Waiuku community. And that would be a sort of lots of support to begin with, and then just slowly diminishing that support as they build up their skill base and eventually take over the contract themselves.
So is that something that you personally are involved with?
Yeah. Myself and some of the people in the management team, as well as the Incorporated Society, has great skills. We're very lucky to have such a broad range of people from our community who support extreme waste and are on the Incorporated Society.
Right, okay. So when are they likely to start?
The tender is out now. We've got another 4 weeks to complete that tender, and we will know in May if we're successful or not, and the contracts will begin on the 1st of July.
Of course, yeah, like they usually do. So for just locally now, we're talking about Xtreme, it's probably a slightly unsettling time. You're not quite sure what's going to be happening, but how do you have a need to be working closely with the council to make sure that you're still in the running when it comes around to the tender in a year's time?
Yeah, absolutely. The council will go through this service review process, and as I say, we're not entirely sure of the detail, but there's likely to be, 3 or 4 different scenarios that they would look at. And from the sticking to what they've got right through to developing a network of community council partnerships. So, we're obviously very interested and excited about the last approach and think there would be great benefits right across the district to having that, and it's, practical. And so...
Are there people in other places like Ngaruawahia and Huntly, for argument's sake, that are interested in doing that in their towns? Do you know? Yeah,
very much so.
Okay.
And the research which was undertaken by Eunomia, there was quite a lot of community surveys done, a variety of forms, and there was, we understand that there was very strong support for a greater diversion from landfill and more involvement of community.
Okay. So the question is, are the people, specific individuals there who would take up that role, really? I guess you don't really know at this point.
Yeah, and I think, it's as much about an evolution that we went through as a community as well. None of us had a background in waste in 1998, 2000, so it's kind of one of those, there's... until the opportunity is created, you won't get people experienced. But there's certainly lots of people who are here within the community, who would love the opportunity to go and work and share their experiences elsewhere. And we had a number of the councillors up to Extreme Waste yesterday.
Okay.
And they said that they've certainly been lobbied hard for establishing more community recycle centres.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And there's also the issue of the inorganic collection,
which
is, loved by some, hated by others. And an alternative to an inorganic collection is to establish a recycle centre and make those resources available, 5 days a week rather than 1 week in a year.
Yeah, out in the rain.
Yeah.
So you talked about doing some community surveys in those parts of the district. Will there be some kind of survey or consultation with the community here in Raglan about what's happening with the district waste service review?
My understanding is that on next Tuesday, councillors will have a presentation from staff, and it will detail the findings from the service review. And then there's another opportunity in a month's time at their next councillor meeting.
Yeah.
And there's a potential to workshop it if there's a lot of detail that they want to work through. But potentially from next Tuesday onwards, the information would be made available, and staff would then come out and consult with community boards And then there's a whole process, obviously, of talking to the community about changes in rates and changes in services. So there may not be a big change for Raglan, but there could be a big change for the rest of the district.
Okay,
and that would involve, negotiations with existing contractors, and then taking it to the ratepayers and saying, look, are you happy to actually get rid of the system we've currently got and move to a prepaid bag system, for example?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and 2 different areas of the district already do that anyway.
Yeah, that one's a no-brainer, really. It would solve a lot of compliance issues that the council faces over much of the district.
At the couple of showings that I've done of the extreme waste film so far, at the end people always ask, what can they do to show support? Because we do mention that there are people in the community, people who know how to work the system behind the scenes, who really don't like extreme waste. People after they've watched the film seem a bit confused about why that's the case, but we'll just take it as a given that it is. And people want to know, what can they do to support extreme waste around this? So, I mean, what are your suggestions for that?
Yeah, well, certainly emails and letters, to councillors, to community board, to district council staff, to the mayor, to say that they support what's happening here in Raglan, would like to see it happen throughout the district. That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think, it's been a difficult process because we've, haven't been kind of involved in the service review, and it's just about to come out, but it really depends on how it's presented to the councillors and what they accept as what they want to do for the future. But, if it was scenario A of just sticking with what we've got, then, some lobbying from community would be great to say, come on, let's step it up in the rest of the district, because Raglan's always been sort of, there's something different happening over here, and, they've investing in all of this diversion, and, some of the knockers in the community are saying, well, why do we, want to pay for it? But really, it should be core business of council. It certainly is in other parts of New Zealand, and I think the more that it's normalised across the district, then the less fear those people will have, that this activity is just a Raglan activity.
Yeah, it's just Raglan doing its funny thing that it does out on the coast.
Yeah.
Okay, Rick. Look, thanks for your time this morning. We've gone a few minutes over, but I am. This is a really interesting time in the evolution of extreme waste. So, yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes, and I hope lots of people understand what's happening, because it's interesting and it's important too.
Yeah, well, and a big ups to the community, a big mahi. It's everyone's support. That's given us this strong position, and it's such a wonderful feeling that we've 12 years down the track have got so much to offer these other councils. And just come back from the Chatham Islands and helping them to resolve some of their solid waste issues, and to be able to draw on this 12 years of experience, it's been really powerful.
Can I correct you there? It's 14 years now, Rick.
Oops.
It's been going for so long now. You're probably having trouble keeping up with where you are. That's understandable. Yeah.
Cool, Aaron.
All right. Thanks for talking to us this morning.
Sweet, bro.
See ya. All right, folks, that was Rick Thorpe there from Extreme Zero Waste, just talking about, yes, a really interesting time in the evolution of extreme waste. And we will be playing the film again. I mentioned talking about the film there. We're playing the film again in April. I just needed a break, as you understand. Having 2 jobs is not the smartest thing, really, but that's kind of what it's been like for the last year for me. But we'll be showing that again, and I know there's also a few copies out there in the community if you really want to look at. There's a section I suggest people look at, which is the economic section. It's probably the least interesting section of the film in a lot of ways in terms of excitement, but it does make it pretty clear, purely from an economic perspective, how much better it is to have a community organisation like Extreme Waste than to have a corporate organisation. which is only here to take as much money out of the town as they can.